Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to Sridhar's newsletter and podcast called a show called Minimalist Techie. Appreciate you being here so we can connect weekly on interesting topics. If you are new to my newsletter, you can just add your email ID here so you can directly get my post or the podcast directly into your inbox. If you're on social platform, so do subscribe for the our show called Minimalist Techie or Apple or Spotify and also on YouTube podcast as well. It's available right now. Or if you have registered to this newsletter, if you're not available on social platform, I think you can just subscribe to the newsletter, so you can directly get this over your email, and through my subscription, you can just click the play button, or you can come to the website, click the play button. You can start hearing, listening to the podcast as well. I think the best place to find is directly subscribe to the newsletter actually. In that way, you have direct access to the website and the post in your inbox, because most of this episode you will be missing if you are not looking into any social platforms, right? So, yeah, the show is also, as I said, last 2 to 3 weeks, we have been posting on YouTube as well. So, do find it on YouTube as well, the show called Minimalist Techie. So this weekly newsletter is mostly about articles, books, videos, etc. I read or watch, or my views on a different topics which revolves around my head during the week. Let's dive into today's topic: decoding the H1-B visa journey. So what you need to know before moving to the US. So last week I have done a harsh reality of US education, especially for the international students and the job market for international students in US. So have got some response from few of the folks who have requested to do a podcast similar for H1B opportunities, or what challenges are there, any challenges, etc. and all that. So that's the reason this week I'm doing, especially want to decode this H1B visa journey. So what you need to know before moving to the US. So today's episode is a reality check for the IT professionals, especially from India. I'm an Indian, so I'm from India. I have more than a decade ago. I have moved here. On H1B. So I'm mostly my knowledge, my information is from Indian professional background. So that's the reason today's episode is a reality check for the IT professionals, especially from India, who are considering move to the US on H1B visa. We will discuss the challenges, misconceptions, financial struggles, and career growth aspects of working in the US, especially on H1B visa. The aim or the goal of today's podcast is to provide you with the clarity and help you avoid common mistakes made by the professionals who have moved to the US without any sufficient planning. So let's break it all down for you. Let's talk about a recent trend and why I'm talking about the challenges this week. H1B visa movers, especially over the last few years, especially for year 2002, 2022, and 2024 after COVID, there has been surge in Indian IT professionals who are coming to US on H1B visas. Many are making this move without doing any proper research or understanding what the move entails. Basically, common outcomes are like they're struggling with the low wages that don't match with the high cost of living in a developed country like United States, and living here on paycheck to paycheck is, and this is especially true for the families, for professionals who are coming on H1B visa. Even those good standard IT professionals are also living paycheck to paycheck, and after a couple of years now they're returning to India after failing to find the jobs or the financial stability. So this trend has been accelerating since 2016, as the job markets have tightened and the companies have introduced restrictions on hiring H1B professionals. Why year 2016 is been called out a special is just because uh, H1B visas were there since many years now, but I think 2016 is when a lot of immigration changes happened. I think a lot of internal political discussions, hire American first, yeah, which is all true. Yes, normally uh, any country has to provide jobs for their citizens, right? So hire American first is the very first slogan what you hear. I think that has tightened a lot of rules, or at least So definition of H1B visa has not changed much, but I think politically a few things are coming into a picture, especially from 2016 onwards, and the laws have been little tightened, or less number of visas are sanctioned, or the H1B renewals are not happening on time. So, which is definitely like employers have to sponsor and prove again and again with the detailed information why it's a special occupation, why the role requires a specialty role, a specialty IT professional, right? So companies are also now getting back, and that has caused definitely a lot of restrictions and tighten the job market if you are looking for the H1B visa supported jobs. Yeah, so let's understand if someone is pretty new, what is H1B visa and what's it's not as well, because many people have misconceptions. So let's start with basics. H1B visa is a temporary non-immigrant work visa. It is a temporary non-immigrant work visa. Remember that. It allows U.S. employees. It allows U.S. employers to hire foreign professionals in a specialty occupations like IT, engineering, finance, or any different fields. So it is crucial to understand that H1B visa is not a path to a permanent residency or citizenship. Yeah, so would like to remind it again. It's very crucial to understand H1B visa is a work visa, is not a path to a permanent residency or a citizenship. There are many issues are actually aligned where people are treating the work visa for a permanent residency. There is a lot of backlog is there for right now in order to get the PR. So I'll not get into that PR process or the delay in the perm or the delay in green card for Indians. There's a backlog of 130 years. No, because that's a byproduct of or an extension of H1B. But by default, H1B is not meant, is not a path for the permanent residency. So there are misconceptions. So this has to be very clear. Extensions of your H1B, like applying for PERM, I-140, or the green card applications are employer dependent, and they do not guarantee a permanent stay in the US. Yeah, the primary purpose of H1B visa is to fulfill a specific job roles for a fixed period, for a fixed employer, for a fixed client, right? Do require a mindset shift here. The H1B visa is means to gain international work experience, right? If you're coming from India, so treat the H1B visa as a work permit in order for you to gain the international work experience, gain niche skills, and exposure to the new market. Definitely, this is not a path or this is not a guaranteed way to settle abroad. Always treat this particular work visa as a temporary work opportunity. Yeah, when I said temporary, so what is this temporary nature of H1B visa, right? H1B visa is initially granted for 3 years when you apply, right? So for a given employer, and if your employer is having a job here, or if your employer is providing services to some other US employer here, you'll initially, based upon that requirement, say maximum is initially applied for 3 years, and after that 3 years you can again extend for one more 3 years, but there is a limit of 6 years in total for a H1B visa to get utilized. Beyond this, the sixth year, it requires a green card sponsorship or other legal pathways, which means employer has to prove that they are not getting any US American in order to fulfill the particular job, and then employer will be doing an extended application. So this is different than your H1B. That's the reason I'm not getting into that detail, but beyond this, that's the reason this is a H1B is a temporary visa. Definitely, this is not a path for permanent residency or the citizenship. Yeah, if your employment ends, even H1 is for 3 years, even H1 is for the 6 years, right? If your employment actually ends within that duration period, then you have only 60 days to find either another job or leave the country. So do remember how temporary your job is. So it is very crucial to have a clear plan. What will you do if your project ends or you lose a job, right? Are you prepared to return to India or transition on the another opportunity? which means you have to find the job within this 60 days period, right? So I think that's the reason there are a lot of misconception that yeah, I can stay for 3 years, I can stay for 6 years, I can stay much longer than 6 years. No, right? This is a short-term visa which is only to fulfill certain job role, certain requirement for a certain period of time. So so it is crucial definitely. So you need to have a clear path always. You need to prepare your mindset. So the mindset which you need to adopt is treat H1B visas as a short-term opportunity to gain work experience, to gain niche skills and exposure to the direct client interaction. Plan for possibility of returning to your own home country once your work is complete or your visa duration ends, whatever comes early, right? So do have a plan, so to return back to return back to your home country. Come to the US knowing that your stay may be limited and your focus should be on your career growth during this time. Yeah, this is pretty important. You need to have this clear mindset. You should have a clear plan, uh, for sure. Going back to your home country, there are a lot of misconception. People end up uh, covering it up with don't know about the cloud, or getting into too much of uh, uh, mindset that they can just stay here, they can have their home, they can uh, right. No, I think yeah, definitely you have, first thing is you have to have a very clear mindset. What is the definition, how long you are going to stay? As you stay 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, there's a lot of misconception that you can stay here forever, right? And people get into that entirely drill. It's a complete loophole actually. So I will not get into that detail because lot of it creates a lot of worrisome for the individual person, how their current mindset is. So it's person to person. That's the reason I'm very clearly stating that your mindset should be, you need to adapt your mindset. So you need, so that you can understand that this is a short term opportunity to gain your work experience, to gain the niche skills, so that you can focus on your career growth. So factors considering before moving to the US. So, so before deciding move to the US on H1B visa, ask yourself these key questions, right? What are your goals? Are you seeking international work exposure, higher earnings, or a career development, right? Are you prepared for challenges including financial constraints, cultural adjustments, and any uncertainties related to the immigration, right? How does this move fit into your long term career plan? Yeah, make sure you ask and have answers for these key questions pretty clear. Make a checklist of the factors to evaluate. So skills, do you have in demand skills for the US job market? Yes, you are coming for a certain job, but in order to continue your job in the US for the H1B duration, definitely you need to have the skills which are relevant to the US job market. Or you are moving to a completely a different location from your home location to an abroad country where cultural differences are very different, right? So here we are talking about US. So India, many professionals are English speaking, so you won't find that much amount of issue. But definitely culture, the mindset of your US household mindset is entirely different than the Asian mindset, right? So you'll definitely see a lot of challenges, especially even the financial constraints as well. Asian mindset is one household, one person is one single income, whereas American mindset, they, an entire home, all adults will actually go for work and generate income, right? So for a individual who is coming with an Asian mindset with single income, for them making 100K, 150K is a tougher for them. But uh, the people with an American mindset and with the American citizens, husband works, wife works, adult kid works, right? So everyone works, everyone is making 75, 75 as well. They're easily knocking out their financial burdens or financial constraints, right? Or you're moving within a family, Is your kid going to understand the language? Is your kid going to fit into the culture? Are you going to fit into the culture? Your spouse who is coming here, uh, definitely without, or when you're coming only on H1, your spouse is not allowed to work in the US. You can bring your family, but they'll be in a dependent state, right? So please make sure, that's the reason it's pretty important. Ask yourself these key important questions. And I'm leaving this time very clearly these questions on the newsletter post as well. So as you can go through them and you can list out your own reasons, right? Because when I did the move, I had certain goals in my mind. I had certain challenges which I had to overcome. And right, were there any cultural adjustments for me as well? Yes, it was there, right? So you need to list out each and everything. Uh, Make a checklist of the factors to evaluate for sure. Skills is very important thing. You need to make sure you do have the skills with respect to US job market. Financial readiness. Are you prepared to manage high living cost with an offered salary? This is pretty important. Yeah, you are coming, you're leaving your job in India, you're coming to abroad, you're accepting a job offer in abroad. Just like in India, when you accept another job offer, you always look for certain number, right? In order to say in so and so city, you're supposed to get some X number of income, right? So you have your financial figure based upon your lifestyle. You know that okay, if I'm going moving from one location to another location, even in India as well, you have to have this level of checklist prepared for you. You cannot simply accept any offer, right? So you have to be financially ready as well. Are you prepared to manage high living cost with an offered salary? Yeah. Have the family considerations. Are you moving alone or with the dependents? How will this impact your finances and lifestyles for entire family move, right? uh, well will it impact your spouse career aspect? Will it impact your kid education aspect, right? Cultures are very different. So definitely every, if you're simply moving as in a single, then just you alone, you have to consider it. But if you are moving within a family, this is a complete family decision for a move. Reflect on how this move will actually help you to grow in your career, both professionally and financially. Yeah. Financial realities, like LCA salaries and cost of living in US. Why previously when we are talking about that you need to prepare a checklist even for the financial readiness as well. uh, that's the reason why we need to talk about LCA salaries and the cost of living in the US. Many Indian employer sponsors are actually sponsor H1B visas, but they pay minimum required LCA salary, which is labor condition application salary. So as per law, each employer when they sponsor for H1B, they're supposed to pay a minimum LC. LCA salary. So these LCA salaries are often insufficient. These are outdated. These are not revised with respect to the current cost of living. So what happens is LCS salaries are often insufficient to cover the high cost of living in the major US cities. Yeah, so I think that the LCA salary is definitely applicable to all Indian MNCs, Infosys, Wipro, TCS, wherever, whichever organization you're moving, whichever they see employer, right? They always stick to certain LCA salary or little above than the LCA salary, but definitely not with respect to the market rate. The market rate can be $100 per hour for certain job, which should be giving you 200K, but LCA will simply say 78K or 85,000 or 90,000. Your employer would simply sponsor you that. So don't simply look into employer offer and accept that. Yes, definitely you're getting government approved LCA wage, but I'm very clearly stating LCAs are pretty much outdated. That the wage determination which is there for an LCA for certain job is definitely not matching at all. Since 2016 onwards, if you see, uh, things are cost of living in US is rising, and after COVID, cost of living has raised so much. And from 2000 2010 12 onwards, there is a housing crisis, which after a decade now, people are seeing lot of issues in the US housing crisis, right? So stuff has completely changed since over a decade now. From 2010 to 2020, COVID has added a much more fuel to it, and the car prices got increased, and yeah, the housing prices are increased, rents are increased, right? So definitely LCA salaries are very insufficient to cover the high cost of living in major US cities. Yes, I think if you are someone who's actually getting an offer from Facebook, or from like a Google, Microsoft, you're working for such a big tech companies in India, and you're getting an internal transfer, then yes, those companies might not be doing LCA. But I'm talking about majority of other IT professionals of India who would be coming through other companies which are not from these bigger companies. Then definitely you are stick to this LCA salaries, right? So LCA salary, an example, like take an example that 85,000 salary in a Virginia might seem pretty attractive, and even when you run your numbers with that Indian calculator, you'll always feel, oh, this is a damn good salary for you. But with the rents, with the current US rents, with the current US healthcare costs, groceries, or any other expenses, it is pretty difficult to maintain or support a family on this salary. Some counties in Virginia, for an example, estimate an average household income required for a decent living is 153,000 per annum, right? So see how much difference is. LCA is saying it's 85,000. The average household income of an account is saying 153,000, right? Which means if you're not making as in a household, which means what do you mean by average household income? Which means like in a house, if at all a husband wife both are working, that's together in a house they should at least have a income of 153K. If only one person is working, still household income means is together multiple of people in a same house or single person, they have to make at least $153,000 for a decent living. And just think, the LCA salary is 85,000 or 90K, and see how much gap it is there, right? More than 60,000, 60K difference is there, and that's pretty high number. That much, that how much that is the amount. 60K is that much, is a pretty big amount, is which is LCA is too outdated compared to your current estimated average household income. Yeah. Housing crisis, US has been experiencing housing crisis since 2012. Not much homes have been built, so year on year not many homes got built. So there are pretty lesser homes on the market, so but there are too many number of people. So supply, demand is so high, but there is no supply of homes. So this has really skyrocketed housing crisis in US. So that definitely a separate podcast. But yeah, but you have to make this as well. Yes, y- you are not buying a house, or if you're buying a house, or if you're not buying a house, when housing crisis issues happen, not just the house which are supposed to you'll be buying, even the house which you are going to rent as well, it's going to skyrocket more, because right. So the home prices, the rent prices, everything will go pretty high. Yeah. And they are high right now. And inflation perspective, post COVID, inflation has increased cost of essentials like groceries, cars, and healthcare, right? So definitely, if you're coming to US, healthcare is very important. Without healthcare insurance, it's not easy to live in US, because you will not be able to keep up with, without insurance. You cannot keep up with medical bills, right? So insurance is must, through your employment. You should get it. And car, the reason why I say car, because US is pretty heavy car dependent area, unless you really staying in certain area where lot of metros or train stations are there. But again, those metro and train stations are actually only available in big cities. And again, big cities doesn't have big cities cost of living is much higher. You need to make at least 300K, if at all you need to stay in a bigger cities where these metros are there. But if you leave them aside, the other suburbs where you need to live, definitely other suburbs, they don't have this train facility or metro station facility. So car is also is a, one of the bigger expense when you come, right? So especially when you come to US, you'll understand that you don't have the car, so you need to come with that financial decision as well, because in order for you to stay in US, if you have some colleagues who can help you initial few months to take you to office and come back and all that, right? So make sure buying a car or as soon as you land here is also in your primary list, or else you'll be struggling a lot just for coming and going to the office for daily transportations or from groceries, etc., right? You'll be struggling a lot without having a car, especially if you're in some suburbs which are heavily car dependent areas. Yeah. The many families who actually moved to the US in 2022 and 2024 are actually struggling financially due to these factors, because of they have accepted certain job offers with an LCA salaries not in relation with the current medium household income, right? Personal financing tip I would from my end is keep housing expenses at 30 to 40% of your income. In general is 30%, which means all your rent, utilities, everything should be within your 30%. Right now, because post COVID, every country is having some inflation, high price in groceries and all, so make that as 40%. But if rents exceeds this particular percentage, you may struggle a lot. And take this same example. Say example, if you are paying like $2,000, which is 30% of your income, then it's you can easily able to save additional money for your retirement, additional money for your vacations, for your kid education plan, right? So not you can for your medical expenses, your emergency expenses, right? You need to have amount left out of your gross income. If at all, you need to maintain your finances well. But problem with this LCA salaries is your with the current rent market, the current home rents are way beyond $2,400. So what's happening is now with this LCA salary, and your rent itself is hitting 50 to 55, 60%, then you'll start living paycheck to paycheck, right? So the families with the single income surviving on LCA salaries often leads to a financial stress and limited savings. So do make sure you consider your move from a financial realities perspective, LCA salaries, and what is your current job offer salary and cost of living in US, right? When is it feasible to move on H1B visas? So moving on H1B visa can still be feasible in certain scenarios. If you are young, single, or looking for a career growth, if you're financially disciplined and you aim to save aggressively, your saving potential in US could be 5 times compared to your India. And definitely it varies by experience and lifestyle. So for someone it is 2x, someone it's 3x, but 5x. But I'm just saying in general. So if your primary goal is to gain career skills and save aggressively, or your employer actually pay an offer is actually meeting with the median household income of a county where your job is, then yeah, it is feasible to make a move on a H1B visa. However, for the families or those on a LCA salaries, the financial strain can be significant. So, yes, so I'm not saying it's not feasible to move to US on H1B visa. It is feasible, but as I mentioned, you need to consider all these checklist and go over your own personal finances and see what was your job offer, and then see if really that's a good move to you or not. Yeah, I think in order to understand this paycheck to paycheck scenario, I think we need to break it down in a personal finance perspective. Say if you're earning $80,000 annually, and your rent ideally should be 30% of your income, which is approximately $2,000 per month. So due to your rising cost, it's often closer to 40%. So let's assume the 40% is what you're putting it for your rent. In major tech hubs, rents can actually exceed $2,400 per month. So leaving a pretty little room for your savings or discretionary spending. So this financial imbalance is why families on LCA salaries are living paycheck to paycheck, or even returning to India, because right now with an Indian market, with the Indian GDP and Indian salaries, it's much better to stay in India. And right, but I'm not saying they definitely. I'm not saying don't plan for US. Do plan based upon your personal finances. Definitely, if you are a you're a finance savvy guy, then definitely you can save 5 times more than what you make in India. But yeah, it's different to person. If you're making 50 lakh per annum, 75 lakh per annum, 1 crore in India, then yeah, it doesn't make sense at all for you to make this H1B move, right? So do plan your finances carefully, because this answer, this discussion, the points which I'm sharing is different from a person to person, but you have to make your own plan so that you can avoid falling into this financial trap. Home buying on a H1B visa, I think I want to touch this topic as well. Many H1B professionals consider buying a home in US because they are staying here for 2 years, third year, so people feel like we are wasting money on the rent. But this comes with a very high risk. H1B visa is a temporary visa, right? That's the reason initially itself I mentioned this is a temporary visa. So if you lose your job, you must leave the US within 60 days, which means if you have home during that time, you have to sell your home or give it for rent or find a financial planner who will maintain that home on rent, right? If you are not allowed to come to the country, then how you are going to maintain that particular home, right? So I think yeah, a best decision for many is to simply sell the home and go, which means within the 60 days you need to leave the country, 60 days you need to sell the home. So home buying is on this limited visa is also a risky decision. So I'm not saying don't buy a home, live your life, but treat home buying as an investment, not on a long-term settlement plan. When I say investment, you understand when you make a investment of say certain amount, that amount is after you have saved for your emergency expenses. You don't care about that money. That's what investment money is, right? You're keeping certain money in the investment. You can make a profit, you can make a loss by buying or selling, right? So don't fall into keeping up with Jonas or Jonas's or mentality of or the fear of missing out by your neighbor. Someone is buying, your brother is buying, your cousin is buying. No, keep that entire thing aside. uh, Risk is different from a person to person. So renting versus buying is a pretty personal decision, but weigh the risks carefully, knowing the limitation of the duration of your visa. Right? Tightening of job market and H1B exclusions. Post 2016, many job descriptions now explicitly say they are not open for H1B candidates. Right? Companies are increasingly stating job is not open for the sponsorship or H1B due to the immigration law frequent changes. See, it's not like US doesn't have the job opportunities. US do have these job opportunities. Does US has the skilled resources? No, they don't have the skilled resources in order to fill their own opportunities. So US do need to bring brightest minds from outside their country and fill their jobs, right? But they every time a political new party comes in, every 4 years election cycle happens. So definitely every country will run through their own agenda, right? So there is a misuse of this visa as well, or there is a actual good intent usage of this visa as well. So there are pros and cons. So that's the reason when the governments are changing, there are a lot of restrictions. They are not renewing H1Bs, which means you will not be able to get your renewals on time. So companies don't want to lose the resources. So they are also increasingly stating that the job is actually not open for visa sponsorships or H1B due to this immigration delays or a frequent law changes. Right. Many job descriptions explicitly says that these are not open for H1B visa holders. So if you are moving on LCA salary, you can come here and then you can change a job as well, right? You can change a job, you can move to a new employer where you can resolve all these SEA issues, etc. Right? You can have your finances issues get resolved. But again, you need to understand the US job market for your move, because especially when you're on H1B visa and you're looking for jobs in the market, it will be pretty tight for you to find a open job for H1B visa, because many of the jobs will be posted for W2 1099, which on H1B professional cannot work, or a visa type of US citizen or green card holder or EAD, right, which a H1B visa holder is not applicable. So you'll be seeing a lot of those job descriptions, job emails are there, but something you cannot apply for it. So the tech job market has become incredibly competitive, and international professionals face additional barriers due to these immigrations issues. So this makes it essential to have a niche and in-demand skills to compete in this hard job market. So let's assume your employer is paying you good income, or you're staying in a certain area where you're not facing this cost of living issue. But I think I want to talk about the stagnation which happens, especially on a H1B professionals. So don't hold on to stagnant jobs. A common mistake a H1B professional makes is staying in a same job or a skill set for years and years just to maintain their visa status. So the work you are doing may become outdated and make it very harder to find a new job if you lose your current one, right? And by the time you're losing your current job, and if you have stayed in those stagnant jobs and your skills are outdated, then it will going to be a pretty hard for you to find a job in the market, right? So key tip: if you're on a H1B, definitely you're coming on a visa, you have certain restrictions. Uh, on your visa, you can only work for your employer and the client for where the application got approved, right? So just just to maintain that visa status and stay in US and making that right, do make sure your skills are also be relevant in the job market. Learn new technologies, pursue certifications, or adapt to the industry standards. So keep your learning mindset on. So keep your hat on for learning, and make sure your H1 journey, you're keeping yourself up. Your skills should be up to date with respect to the market. If you're lucky enough to find a job, if your job itself is working in a niche area, in sync with your current market latest technology, then you're lucky. If not, definitely don't stick to some X job which is not relevant to the job market. Yeah. Switching employers on H1B visa. So H1B visa holders can actually change employers, but the process is complex. You need to find employer. You need to first find a job posting which is actually accepting H1B visas, and then you need to find an employer who is not finding any US born citizen. So and then they'll come to you as a second round based upon your skill set, and then you'll be the in the second round for you to get interview. So if for a given job application, you are not a first candidate in US, right? So which is pretty normal, right? Because you are not an immigrant of this country. So because you are immigrant in this country, so definitely initial job opportunities should be given to the US resident, which is pretty acceptable. And you'll be a second position in that particular opportunity in order to apply for a certain job, right? So you can employer can then review, can employer can decide, yes, they want to sponsor for your H1, then they're going to apply for your H1 sponsorship or H1 extension or H1 transfer to the employer to another employer. So as you can make this move, you can change your employer as well. So if you find a job that aligns with your career growth and offers the right wages, then definitely go for it. US tech market is still a valuable experience, but preparation is key, right? If you yes, at least focusing from last 30 to 40 minutes, you understand my bullet point which I'm reading through, or what we are discussing here, right? Preparation is key in order to stay relevant to the US tech market. So if you are considering moving abroad on a H1B visa, do thorough research on work culture, wages, job market conditions, and the cost of living in United States. Discuss the move with your family and plan every detail. Don't rely on any assumptions or the outdated narratives which are shared by someone else. Immigration laws were a lot different earlier. People used to get a PR with a much shorter duration, but it's not the same thing right now. So don't rely on any assumptions. Don't rely on any gossiping, outdated narratives. Right? Do your own thorough analysis, or understand that this move is a temporary, and treat it as a career growth opportunity rather than a permanent settlement plan. Yeah. So moving to US on H1-B visa can be a valuable experience, but it does requires a careful planning and realistic expectations. Many challenges which I stated here can be avoided by uh, understanding the financial perspective of the US market and your wages, uh, by having your professional checklists and cultural aspects of your move. So many of these challenges can be avoidable, just require certain preparation in order for you to make a decision whether to move or not move, right? So the goal is to help you, for today's episode, my goal was at least to help you to make informed decision and avoid the struggles that many professionals have faced in the recent years, right? So this is an example of why last 3 to 3 years, folks, in 2022 3 4 people have faced issues because the issues which have listed here, and then they decided US is not the right job market for them, and they're regretting their decision of move or moving back to their home country. Yeah. So yeah, so do always uh, make it very clear in your mind that this is a temporary uh, uh, duration visa, so that your main expectation should be to gain the your career aspect, right? So make sure you have that aspect in very very clear. Yep. So that is all for this week. See you again. Hope you find the episode useful. Do let me know in comments or reply me over email to share what is your view on this post. So share, like, subscribe, whatever these days kids says. Stay connected, share ideas, spread happiness. Thank you. Bye bye.